Hello YouTube, it is your boy B3 back with another kicking, you guessed it, graphic novel review. We have a good book for you guys today. It's been a long time since I read anything from this title, so I'm glad to get back into it. The Amazing Spider-Man, Renew Your Vows, The Venom Experiment. Yes, during the Secret Wars line-wide event, the most recent one, like the 2016 one I think is when it happened. I read the whole thing. There was a War Zones book, and the War Zones were the mini-series that were on the side on about the different worlds that existed in Secret Worlds. There was a War Zones book about a world where Peter Parker and Mary Jane were still married, had a kid, and then all three of them fought crime together. It was really good. I read the single issues, but I'll probably also get the trade on Kindle, since I have the trades for the ongoing. It was so popular they made an ongoing series from it. And I have the physical copy of this volume and Volume 1. I'm pretty positive I've reviewed Volume 1. Like, I'm sure I've reviewed Volume 1. But it was a long time ago. Like, I reviewed Volume 1 closer to when it came out. And this, I'm just reviewing now. Because I just want to read a bunch of symbiote stuff. And this is a symbiote-related book. So it's Volume 2, The Venom Experiment. I'm going to read you the back of the book here. Face it, Tiger. MJ is Venom. You just hit the crackpot is what I would have put, but whatever. The sensational adventures of the spectacular Spider family continue, and this time they're joined by the X-Men! Annie Parker just received an invitation to attend Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, which means she'll get to meet Wolverine, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Professor X. But where the X-Men go, can Magneto and his Brotherhood of Evil Mutants be far behind? Then, Mary Jane has been saving the day as Spinneret, but at the cost of some of her husband's powers. So it's time for a biological upgrade, something black and white and terrible all over. Venom! But but will she give in to the symbiote's villainous urges? Speaking of which, say hello to 10-year-old Norman Osborn II. Can he escape the Goblin family legacy? Collecting Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows 2016, number 6 through 12 by Jerry Conway, Ryan Stegman, Brian Level, Nathan Stockman, Juan Ferry, and Jesus Arbatov. The only name I really recognize on here is Ryan Stegman. But it's a good book, good writing, good art all around. So it's 3 stories, right? It's 3 shorter stories in this one book. The first one is about Xavier's School of Mutants. They have a real 90s take on this Xavier School. It's one where Jean and Wolverine have a kid. Pretty interesting. Real young child, just learning to speak. But they're like, hey, Peter, MJ, you should let your kid go to school here. And they're like, she's not a mutant. And they're like, in the eyes of the law, yeah, she is a mutant. She's a kid with powers. She was born with them. That's a mutant. Even though she doesn't have the X gene, legally she is a mutant because she's born with her powers. But they're there discussing it. Peter thinks she should go. MJ thinks she shouldn't go. Then Magneto attacks with the Brotherhood of Mutants, and he uses Emma Frost, and he's trying to use her to control all the mutants, but she has like her own little agenda, but it's whatever. There's a traitor on the X-Men. It's the last one you would expect, Jubilee. I guess they were like, this is an X-Men we can do without, so they were like, let's make her the traitor. So Jubilee ended up on the raft with the Brotherhood of Mutants by the end. But, and then, towards the end, MJ wanted to send her to the school and Peter didn't. I'm not entirely sure if she went to the school or not, and I'll explain why. But yeah, you get to see Wolverine and stuff. It's pretty cool. Wolverine homie. I love when Wolverine and Spider-Man get together, because Wolverine's kind of no nonsense and Spider-Man's like all nonsense. It's always really fun to watch them together. But then the second story, they're fighting Mysterio, and Mary Jane's using her powers to save Spiderling. It's actually it's pretty predictable that it is a illusion of Spiderling in danger. But, because remember, the Regent Tech, who was the villain of the War Zones, there's Regent Tech on Spider-Man's suit and Spinneret's suit, so Mary Jane drains Spider-Man's powers to use her powers. So they're each at like half spider strength. But if she uses her abilities too much, it'll drain him of his abilities completely, leaving him powerless. And she actually uses so much power that he passes out while fighting Mysterio. But then she throws a subway car at him, which was insane. But it turns out their kid was never in danger. She wasn't ever even there. So she's like, I need a new way to use powers that doesn't drain Peter. So she goes to Liz Allen because she sees Liz on the news talking about this new biotech stuff they're developing. And Liz Allen gives her the Venom symbiote, but doesn't tell her it's the Venom symbiote. Now, it seems like it might be obvious this is the Venom symbiote. It's black, it has a big white spider on it, but in the War Zones book, Spider-Man kills Venom. Like, murders Venom. In self-defense, and in defense of his family. Spider-Man, I think, killed a few people in that book. Spider-Man got dark in that book. It's because they didn't think they were going to make an ongoing, and now they just kind of ignore that Spider-Man kills somebody in this ongoing title. Actually, they don't ignore it that much in this book. Because when Venom takes Mary Jane over, Venom is very happy to remind Spider-Man that he did in fact kill Eddie Brock and leave the Venom symbiote for dead. Venom is very happy to remind him of that. And he's like, I'm going to kill your family because Brock was my family and you fucking killed him. But then they put some Regent tech on the symbiote to drain it, which allows Mary Jane to control it. Eventually, the Venom symbiote is actually destroyed in this book. Because in the next story, Normie Osborn is like, hey, my dad was killed because Spider-Man's not a real hero. And when in actuality, his dad was killed because he was the fucking Green Goblin and a drug addict and sacrificed himself to save Spider-Man. And Normie did watch him die. But Normie was like, has been putting the Goblin sermon in himself at very low doses. And all it's really done is boost his intelligence and maybe made him a bit more sociopathic. But it's not completely wrecking his facilities like it did his dad and granddad. But he builds a giant goblin mech to destroy Spider-Man. Kidnaps Spiderling, right? But she actually talks him out of it. She talks Normie out of becoming another Green Goblin. And he's like, I don't want to hurt people anymore. But his personal assistant does. She's been helping Normie be a bad guy because she wants to get what she sees as revenge for Harry by killing Spider-Man's entire family. So she actually ends up being the one piloting the Goblin mech, which was a fun little twist. I'm actually glad Spiderling was able to talk him out of it. It leaves us more potential for his character, and it just shows how great of a character Spiderling is. She's actually an incredibly good character. But by the end of this book, it flash forwards 8 years to when she's 17? She was 9, I think, before. And then it flash forwards 8 years. Yeah, 17. So flash forwards to right after her 17th birthday. She's got a new costume. She's older, and the next volume I think is even called 8 years later. Where is that volume? I have it right here. Amazing Spider-Man: Renew Your Vows, Volume 3, 8 years later. Yeah, that's what it's called. So they age her. So I don't know if she went to the Xavier School for Mutants or not. I don't know if she went or not, because we don't get to see the rest of her life after that. So I don't know if she went to school or not. But we'll find out in the next volume, which I'll read relatively soon. I'm trying to read a bunch of Marvel stuff right now because I just did a ton of DC stuff. So but I'm kind of focusing on stuff with symbiotes because I fucking love symbiotes. But I do have some like Punisher, more Amazing Spider-Man: Renew Your Vows, Deadpool, Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man, Venom, Deadpool versus miniseries, different ones. I got a lot to do. I got some Avengers I need to read, new Avengers specifically. But we'll get to all that in due time. So thank you all very much for your support. Remember, rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below, Facebook, Twitter, etc. Be sure to support us on Patreon so we can bring you great content much faster and with better junk. So that's it. Thank you all. Can't say it enough. I'll see y'all later.